Episode 20. The Red Dragon. Marcus woke to the sound of Teresa's voice calling his name through the door of Jimmy's back room at the Youth Alliance. For a moment, disoriented, he didn't know where he was. His body still carried the phantom weight of the FBI wire, his muscles still tensed for violence that had already come and gone. "Marcus, you awake? It's almost noon." Noon. He'd slept through the morning, his body finally claiming the rest it had been denied for days. Marcus sat up on the narrow cot, his father's canvas bag on the floor beside him where he'd dropped it last night. The bag felt lighter now, emptier, though it still held the photocopied evidence the FBI had returned to him. "Yeah," he called back. "I'm up. Jimmy's got lunch ready, and there's someone here asking for you." Marcus's hand went instinctively to where the wire had been taped to his ribs. But there was nothing there now except the faint adhesive residue and the bruises from Wednesday night's violence. He pulled on his shirt, the same clothes he'd been wearing for 3 days, and opened the door. Teresa stood in the hallway, her expression concerned but gentle. At 24, she had a way of reading people that made her invaluable at the Youth Alliance, knowing when to push and when to give space. "You look like hell," she said, not unkindly. "Feel worse." Marcus managed a tired smile. "Who's asking for me?" "Older Chinese man, says his name is Vincent Zhao, says you're supposed to meet him tonight, but he wanted to check on you first." Marcus felt his heart rate pick up. Vincent Zhao. The man who'd left the cryptic message at Mrs. Rodriguez's building, who'd known his father, who had something James Chen had left behind. In the chaos of the past 3 days, the DeLuca confrontation, the FBI operation, the hospital visits, Marcus had almost forgotten about tonight's scheduled meeting at the Red Dragon restaurant. Where is he? Sitting with Jimmy in the main room. They're talking about Korea, of all things. Marcus followed Teresa down the narrow hallway, past the homework room where a dozen kids bent over textbooks, past the art supply closet where his teaching materials waited. The Youth Alliance felt like a sanctuary now, a place where the violence of Wednesday night couldn't reach. In the main room, Jimmy Reese sat across a folding table from a man Marcus had never seen before. Vincent Zhao was in his mid-50s, lean and compact, with silver threading through his black hair. He wore an expensive suit that looked out of place in the Youth Alliance's shabby surroundings, but his posture was relaxed, comfortable. He and Jimmy were laughing about something when Marcus entered. Vincent looked up and his expression shifted, something complicated passing across his face. Recognition. Grief. Something else Marcus couldn't quite identify. "Marcus Chen," Vincent said, rising from his chair. His English was perfect, barely accented. "You look exactly like your father did at your age." Marcus felt the words hit him like a physical blow. Everyone who'd known James Chen said the same thing, but hearing it from this stranger, this man who'd known his father in ways Marcus was only beginning to understand, made it feel different, more real. "Mr. Zhao." "Vincent, please." The older man extended his hand and Marcus shook it. Vincent's grip was firm, his hand calloused despite the expensive suit. "I apologize for the intrusion. I heard about what happened Wednesday night, the neighborhood talks. I wanted to make sure you were still available for our meeting tonight." The careful phrasing wasn't lost on Marcus. Vincent Zhao knew about the DeLucas, about the confrontation at Pier 47, probably about the FBI operation. How much did he know? And more importantly, how? "I'll be there," Marcus said. 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock. Vincent nodded. "But perhaps you should eat first. You look like you haven't had a proper meal in days." Jimmy stood up, his 60-year-old frame still solid and commanding. "Already got sandwiches ready. Marcus, sit. Teresa, grab the food from the kitchen." Marcus found himself guided into a chair, Teresa disappearing and returning with a tray of sandwiches, fruit, and coffee. His stomach reminded him that he'd barely eaten since Tuesday night. He picked up a sandwich, roast beef and cheese, and ate while Vincent and Jimmy resumed their conversation about Korea. It turned out Vincent had served too, though in a different capacity than Jimmy. He'd been an interpreter working with American forces during the war, translating between English, Chinese, and Korean. The work had been dangerous, complicated, full of moral ambiguities. Marcus listened while he ate, learning more about Vincent Zhao through the stories he told than through direct questions. Finally, When Marcus had finished 2 sandwiches and most of the coffee, Vincent turned his attention fully to him. "Your father was a good man," Vincent said quietly. "I know everyone says that about the dead, but in James's case, it was true. He couldn't let injustice stand. It made him dangerous to certain people." "The DeLucas," Marcus said. Vincent's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Among others. The neighborhood is complex, Marcus. Your father understood that. He knew there were different kinds of power, different kinds of loyalty. Not everything is as simple as good versus evil." Marcus thought about Sal Benedetto's confession, about the rendering plant where his father had died screaming, about 20 years of injustice. "Seems pretty simple to me." "Does it?" Vincent leaned back in his chair. "Then why did your father leave certain things with me instead of with the police? Why did he trust a restaurant owner with connections to the very world he was trying to expose?" The question hung in the air. Jimmy watched Marcus carefully, and Marcus realized this was some kind of test. Vincent Zhao wanted to know if James Chen's son could think in shades of gray, could understand the complexities his father had navigated. "Because the police were corrupt," Marcus said slowly. "Because he needed someone who could operate in both worlds, someone who wouldn't be obvious." Vincent smiled slightly. "Your father chose well when he documented everything. And he chose well when he trusted certain people to keep those documents safe. Tonight, at the Red Dragon, I'll give you what he left behind. But I want you to understand something first." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "What your father left with me isn't just evidence. It's insurance. Insurance against the day when someone like you might need it. But it's also dangerous. Not because of what it contains. The FBI already has all that now, I imagine. But because of what it represents. Your father's legacy isn't just about the DeLucas. It's about the choices he made, the world he lived in, the compromises he refused to accept." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "What kind of choices?" "Come tonight and find out." Vincent stood, smoothing his suit. 7 o'clock. The Red Dragon restaurant on Mott Street. Come alone, Marcus. Not because it's dangerous, but because what I have to show you is private, family business. He nodded to Jimmy, who returned the gesture with clear respect, then turned back to Marcus. "Your father would be proud of what you did Wednesday night, but he'd also want you to understand the full picture. Tonight, you'll get that chance." Vincent Zhao left the Youth Alliance, his expensive shoes silent on the worn linoleum. Marcus watched him go, feeling the weight of another mystery settling onto his shoulders. Just when he thought he'd finished his father's mission, just when he thought he could start figuring out who Marcus Chen was supposed to be, the past reached out again. Jimmy sat back down across from him. "You trust him?" Marcus considered the question. "I don't know. Do you? I trust that he knew your father. I trust that he's been waiting 20 years to give you something. Beyond that," Jimmy shrugged. "Vincent Zhao is what we used to call a survivor. He operates in the spaces between things. That doesn't make him bad, but it doesn't make him safe either." Teresa returned to clear the lunch tray, pausing to squeeze Marcus's shoulder. "You going to be okay?" "Yeah." Marcus wasn't sure if he was lying. "Just another meeting. After Wednesday night, how dangerous can dinner be?" Jimmy laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. "Famous last words, kid." Marcus spent the afternoon at the Youth Alliance, helping Teresa with the homework room, trying to feel normal. The kids asked him about his bruises, the ones visible on his face and hands, and he told them he'd been in an accident. They accepted the lie easily, the way kids do when they sense an adult doesn't want to talk about something. Maria, the girl who wanted to learn portrait drawing, showed him a sketch she'd been working on. It was rough, but showed real promise. She'd captured the weight of shadow, the way light defined form. Marcus sat with her for 20 minutes, showing her how to blend charcoal with her fingertips, how to build depth through layers. "You're really good at this," Maria said, studying his demonstration. "Where'd you learn?" "My father taught me the basics," Marcus said, surprising himself with the honesty. "The rest I figured out on my own." "Your father must have been pretty cool." Marcus looked at the charcoal smudged across his fingers, thinking about James Chen's notebook sketches, about the man who documented crimes while teaching his son to see light and shadow. "Yeah," he said quietly. "He was." At 6 o'clock, Marcus left the Youth Alliance. Jimmy walked him to the door, his expression serious. You need backup tonight? No, Vincent said to come alone. Besides, after Wednesday, I think I've used up my quota of dangerous situations for a while. That's not how danger works, kid. It doesn't keep score. Jimmy gripped Marcus's shoulder. But I understand. Some things you have to face alone. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise. Marcus took the subway from the Bronx down to Canal Street, the familiar rhythm of the train both comforting and strange. 3 days ago, he'd ridden these same trains wearing an FBI wire, heading toward a confrontation that could have killed him. Now he was heading toward a different kind of confrontation, one with his father's past, with the secrets James Chen had kept even from his son. Chinatown was busy with early evening crowds, restaurants filling up, shops still open. Marcus walked down Mott Street, past produce markets and jewelry stores, past restaurants with ducks hanging in the windows. The Red Dragon was halfway down the block, its red and gold sign glowing in the gathering dusk. Marcus had been here before, Monday night, 3 days and a lifetime ago, when he'd first met Vincent Zhao and learned his father hadn't been alone in his investigation. That night, Vincent had given him cryptic warnings and sent him away. Tonight, he'd promised answers. The restaurant was quieter than Monday night, only a few tables occupied. The same elderly hostess greeted Marcus, recognizing him immediately. Mr. Chen, Mr. Zhao is expecting you, this way. She led him past the main dining room to a private room in the back, the same room where Marcus had met Vincent 3 days ago. Vincent sat at the round table, a pot of tea and 2 cups already laid out. But this time, there was something else on the table. A small wooden box, lacquered and ornate with brass hinges. Vincent stood as Marcus entered. Right on time. Please, sit. Marcus sat across from him, his eyes on the box. It was about the size of a shoebox, carefully maintained, clearly valuable. Vincent poured tea for both of them, the ritual precise and unhurried. Your father gave this to me in October of 1953, Vincent said, his hand resting on the box. 1 month before he died. He said if anything happened to him, I should keep it safe until his son was old enough to understand. Until you were ready. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. What's in it? Letters, photographs, documents, things your father wanted you to have but couldn't risk keeping at home. Things he couldn't let the DeLucas find if they came for him. Vincent's expression was grave. He knew they were going to kill him, Marcus. By October, he knew. He'd gone to the police, and they'd betrayed him. He'd tried every legitimate avenue, and they'd all failed. He knew what was coming. The words hit Marcus like blows. His father had known, had seen his own death approaching, and had prepared for it, had made arrangements, had tried to protect his son even from beyond the grave. Why didn't he run? Marcus's voice was rough. Why didn't he take me and disappear? Vincent was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the edge of the box. Because he believed in justice. Because he thought if he documented everything, if he made enough noise, someone would eventually listen. He was right in the end. It just took 20 years and his son risking his life to make it happen. Vincent pushed the box across the table. This belongs to you now. I've kept it safe as I promised. But Marcus, before you open it, I need you to understand something. What's in this box won't change what happened Wednesday night. It won't bring your father back. It will only show you who he was, what he believed in, what he was trying to protect. I need to know, Marcus said. Vincent nodded slowly, then open it. Marcus reached for the box with trembling hands. The brass hinges were smooth, well-oiled despite 20 years of storage. He lifted the lid. Inside, carefully organized, were the pieces of James Chen's life that Marcus had never known existed. Letters, dozens of them, in his father's handwriting. Letters addressed to my son that James had written, knowing he might never be able to give them to Marcus directly. Photographs of James as a young man before Marcus was born, showing a life Marcus had never imagined. His father in a military uniform. When had James Chen served? His father at a wedding? Whose? His father with a group of other Chinese men on the docks, all of them young and laughing. And underneath the letters and photographs, more evidence. But this wasn't about the DeLucas. This was different. Documents showing James Chen had been sending money to someone in San Francisco. Regular payments, monthly, for years. A woman's name, Lily Huang. Letters from her, written in Chinese, with English translations clipped to them. Marcus couldn't read Chinese, but he could read the translations. They were love letters. Marcus looked up at Vincent, confusion and shock warring in his chest. "Who is Lily Huang?" Vincent's expression was sad, understanding. "Your father's first wife. She's your stepmother, Marcus. And in San Francisco, you have a half-brother. His name is Daniel. He's 30 years old." The world tilted. Marcus stared at the letters, at the photographs, at the evidence of a life his father had kept secret. A first wife, a son, family Marcus had never known existed. Why? The word came out barely above a whisper. "Why didn't he tell me?" "Because it was complicated," Vincent said gently. "Because Lily and Daniel were in San Francisco, and James was here. Because James married your mother after Lily, and there were questions about the divorce that were never fully resolved. Because immigration laws and marriage laws were complicated for Chinese Americans in those days. Because James was trying to protect everyone. You, your mother, Lily, Daniel." Vincent paused, pouring more tea. "Your father sent money to support Daniel for 25 years. Every month, without fail. Even when it meant going without himself. Even when it meant your mother didn't know where the money was going. He took care of his responsibilities, Marcus. All of them. That's who James Chen was." Marcus picked up one of the letters addressed to him. His father's handwriting, neat and careful. "My son, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything while I was alive. I'm sorry you had to learn about your brother this way. But I need you to know that you are not alone in this world. You have family. Daniel is your blood, even if you've never met him. Lily is a good woman who deserves your respect. When you're ready, go to San Francisco. Meet them. They know about you. They've always known. I kept you separate not because I was ashamed, but because I was trying to protect you from complications you were too young to understand. I kept Daniel separate for the same reason. But you're both my sons, and you both deserve to know each other. Be kind to your brother, Marcus. He grew up without a father, too." Marcus set the letter down, his hands shaking. A brother. He had a brother. All these years, all this time thinking he was alone, and he'd had a brother in San Francisco. "Does he know?" Marcus asked. "Daniel, does he know about me? About what happened Wednesday night?" Vincent nodded. "I contacted Lily after your father died, 20 years ago. Told her what happened. She wanted to come for you, wanted to take you to San Francisco, but the legal situation was complicated. Your mother's family had custody rights. By the time everything could have been sorted out, you'd already been sent to foster care, and Lily couldn't prove her legal relationship to you. She tried, Marcus. She and Daniel both tried." The words settled over Marcus like a weight. All those years in foster care, thinking no one wanted him, and there had been family trying to reach him. Family who'd been kept away by bureaucracy and legal complications and secrets. "I want to meet them," Marcus said. "Daniel, Lily, I want to meet my family." "They want to meet you too." Vincent reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "Lily's address and phone number, Daniel's too. He's a teacher, like you're becoming. He teaches mathematics at a community college. Lily runs a small grocery store. They're good people, Marcus. Your father chose well when he married her." Marcus took the envelope, adding it to the box of letters and photographs. His father's legacy wasn't just about justice and evidence and fighting the DeLucas. It was about family, about connections that survived death and distance and secrets. "Thank you," Marcus said to Vincent, "for keeping this safe, for waiting." "It was my honor." Vincent stood, signaling the end of their meeting. "Your father was my friend. The least I could do was keep his secrets and give them to his son when the time was right." They walked back through the restaurant together, Vincent's hand briefly on Marcus's shoulder. At the door, Vincent paused. "One more thing. The DeLucas aren't the only ones who operated in the shadows. Your father knew that. He knew there were different kinds of power, different kinds of loyalty. The Red Dragon has always been neutral ground, Marcus. A place where different worlds could meet without violence. Your father understood that. I hope you will too." Marcus looked at the older man, seeing him clearly for the first time. Vincent Zhao was exactly what Jimmy had said, a survivor, someone who operated in the spaces between things. someone who'd helped James Chen while maintaining relationships with the very world James was trying to expose. It was complicated, morally ambiguous, impossible to categorize as simply good or evil. It was real. I understand, Marcus said. Vincent smiled. Good. Then perhaps you're ready for what comes next after all. Marcus left the Red Dragon carrying the wooden box, his father's secrets finally in his hands. He walked through Chinatown in the gathering darkness, past restaurants and shops, past people living their lives in the complicated spaces between cultures and worlds. He had a brother, a stepmother, family in San Francisco who'd been waiting 20 years to meet him. His father's legacy wasn't just about justice. It was about love, about responsibility, about the complicated ways people tried to protect each other across distance and time. Marcus took the subway back to the Bronx, the wooden box on his lap, his father's letters pressed against his chest. Tomorrow he would read all of them. Tomorrow he would call the number Vincent had given him and hear his brother's voice for the first time. Tomorrow he would start building connections to a family he'd never known existed. But tonight he returned to the Youth Alliance, where Jimmy and Teresa were waiting. Tonight he would sleep in the back room with his father's letters beside him, learning that James Chen's legacy was bigger and more complicated than he'd ever imagined. Tomorrow he would call San Francisco. But tonight he had letters to read and a brother to discover. The war might be over, but the story wasn't finished. It was just beginning.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.